Well, a good day all around for Bangalore, just that the franchise from Bangalore didn't end up winning the match by a large margin. But in general, folks from Bangalore, people who used to play for the franchise, they all came together collectively representing the Punjab and registered a huge victory. Just to confirm where we are, this is how it finished. Don't let the actual number of runs fool you. 34 runs was only because of Harshal Patel coming and smashing 31 in no time. Otherwise, it was essentially a 50-plus run type of defeat. 179 for 5 plays, 145 for 8. Comprehensive, to say the least. Welcome to Cricbuzz Live, brought to you in association with our fantasy partner, My 11 Circle. We've seen patterns in this tournament. 2 games really, really close, a super over, a one-run game, and then we've seen 2 consecutive annihilations. Last night, it was one-sided. Tonight, again, one-sided. Yesterday was a chase. Today, it's an easy defense by Punjab. I'm joined by Sean Pollock and Pommy Mbangwa. Every time a team who are doing so well, they were soaring at the top of the table, fall to such a crushing defeat. As a neutral, you say, great, it's evening things up. But you really have to look at what went wrong.
Yeah, look, I think the one thing that it shows us, and we say it, I think, every single year, we say you just don't know when a side's going to turn around. You don't know when a side's going to come crashing down, even when they're doing well. Like you say, though, Gautam, it's what we like. It's what makes the tournament particularly exciting, because just when you think a side's going to run away with it, or there are 2 or 3 sides that are definitely going to make the top 4, and they're going to make it comfortably and quite easily, then games like this happen, and they happen regularly throughout the seasons. We've seen it, even sometimes where the kind of disparity between who's at the top and who's at the bottom is even more, and there's a chasm right in the middle, and you kind of got your top 4 looking like they're sailing away. This is one of those scenarios where, in looking at these 2 teams before they played, certainly I couldn't see how RCB were not going to crush Punjab Kings. They needed to play above themselves, Punjab Kings, or the other way, RCB play below themselves. And in this case, you've got to give kudos to the Punjab Kings, but a lot of it, quite a bit of it, was also a letdown in terms of the way the RCB went about things.
Yeah, fair option. I mean, you always tend to look at any victory by a large margin, Sean, as how much credit is it to the winning side, and how much did the losing side capitulate. Fair to say it's a combination of both, because when we saw the runs that were put on, they weren't necessarily an overwhelming score.
No, it wasn't an overwhelming score, but a good contribution. 2 good innings from Gale and then KL Rahul. I think those were important. We always say, or I was always harping on about the bowling lineup for Punjab, and I think they've made some good decisions. First of all, they got Jordan back in a couple of games back. He's starting to have an impact, particularly at the back end. Then Hendricks, for him to be bowling, I'm not convinced of what he can or can't do. The attitude of Meredith in those first few overs meant, listen, we're here for business. We are absolutely here to try and make an impact. We're not just going to allow you guys to try and whack us in those first 5 to 6 overs. We're going to try and make an impact, and they did. I thought they were brilliant up front. Really did apply some pressure, charged in there, and made their presence felt. And then we go Harpreet Brar. I mean, where's he been? Where's he been? he nearly got 3 of the biggest legends in the game out in the space of 3 deliveries. And what an impact he had. Comes into the game, gets a nice little contribution, a little cameo knock at the back end, walks away with a bit of confidence, and then comes out and bowls a fantastic spell to really rock the middle order. When I thought RCB got stuck, that period where Kohli and Pradigal were there at the innings, it just really didn't go anywhere. And you're relying on De Villiers to come in and play another one of those innings, or Maxwell to play another one of those innings. And it can't always be the case. So I think they'll be very disappointed in that effort tonight, because I don't think that was a score that couldn't have been chased down.
And that's exactly what we felt. But just a word to stay on him. I mean, we've seen a lot of young Indian names emerge, some of them who've maybe shone at an under-19 World Cup, some who have done really well in domestic cricket. In Harpreet's case, he's been around. He was selected early. He comes from Moga, Pommy, which is the same town in Punjab where Harmanpreet Kaur, India's female cricket sensation, is from. And almost as an unknown, he's established himself, as Sean mentioned, with bat ball and with the three biggest scalps you can ever imagine.
Yeah, look, we might look towards the scalps. We've got to make sure we're not looking just there, because, you know, minus the 25 that he gets, it's not as imposing a score. You have to start even better. That 25 not out of 17 contributes a great deal. Number one, to the feel-good factor as they go off the field, having dominated the last 2 or 3 overs, and then also in just bumping up. No Jew again today, which was something that we're sort of looking at and wondering whether it would happen. And perhaps if there was Jew, that was kind of the buffer that they were looking for, the 10, 15 runs extra. We thought, looking at it, it was just about par, the score, but in listening to the average scores and generally what's gone on there, perhaps it was just a little bit above par, and it certainly proved rather difficult for RCB because of how well, like Sean says, they started, but that follow-up by Harpreet Brar was just magnificent.
But was it almost a situation where some of the batsmen, and we saw Riley Meredith, as you said, he meant business. He got that early breakthrough of Devdutt Padikkal. But after that, when once you're expecting maybe, is it going to be a Maxwell? Is it maybe AB trying to assert themselves on this run chase? Kohli was assertive at the end of the game. He said, Rajat Patidar is someone who can control the pace of the innings. Now, I'm not sure if everyone agrees with that, Sean, but that's what Kohli felt, and that's what certainly didn't seem to come out today.
Yeah, I think what he was trying to do, I mean, I think he was trying to make the effort to hit boundaries, but he was losing his shape. He was trying to force the issue. He didn't time anything. I mean, when you compare him, I know Chris Gale's a great of the T20 format, but his was constructive hitting. He wasn't trying to overhit it. He was just middling it and playing his normal game. Patidar, he gets, 31 of 30. I think Kohli was 35 of 34. You know, in that kind of chase, in that period, you need to have taken the attack because of the effort that Chris Gale had made. I always looked at it thinking, well, it's fine, actually, because we discussed at the halfway show that from 10 to 15, Punjab had sort of lost their way. So if they didn't get too far behind, it wasn't going to be a problem, and maybe they could catch it up when De Villiers and those guys come to the crease. But then they both got out, and that's always the danger. If you do chew up balls, if you absorb the pressure, you have to be able to reapply it and catch up at some stage. And if you don't, then you end up 26 without loss, striking at 6.5, and then going at 5.7 after that. And as we say, I mean, that effort at the end makes it look like it's a loss, it's a bad loss, but it could have looked a lot worse.
Pommy, typically, when you see a power play of that nature, yes, you've lost 1 wicket, but you haven't lost 3. And it's not a surface where things are happening where you know that, okay, we've got to find a way out of trouble. They weren't not necessarily in trouble just because you've lost Padikkal, and yet you've got a power play at run a ball.
So I think it is big trouble to lose Padikkal because of the way he's played in this season. And, you know, sometimes guys go unnoticed. So he scored 100, and then he scored another couple of scores and they are quick every time. What he has done this season is up his intensity of scoring up at the top of the order. And what it's done in all the games to this point is it's allowed Virat to just get himself started. And I can't think of a game where Virat has started quite quickly. In fact, it's been uncharacteristic of him where he's kind of had to watch as the youngsters bashed it to all parts and try to get himself going. So to take that away says, right, today somebody else has got to do it because Padikkal hasn't got the runs. I feel it has a knock-on effect as well, because if he gets a 40 off 25 balls, and you put whoever you like in at number 3, the damage doesn't really get done because you're already ahead of the game. But if he doesn't get away and nobody gets away up at the front, and then you still go with your plot for who's number 3 and leave the others to kind of wait and wait and wait, the equation gets more and more difficult, and you ask them to come in and do more and more. And it doesn't matter who the batsmen are, when the pressure is applied, it affects them. Do they deal with it? Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. And it also depends on how much pressure you're putting them under.
Well, even having said that, let's just go forward a couple of overs. Yes, you've lost Padikkal. Then comes Kohli and Patida. They don't quite get going. But you still know that if you get stuck a little bit, you've got those names at the back. We keep talking about it. Punjab didn't have it. They got runs as a bonus from Harpreet Brar. You've got Maxwell on paper. You've got De Villiers. You've got Jameson. Now you've seen we've got Harshal Patel who can hit the ball. And yet, even they didn't deliver. So was it a case where they were already rattled and hence they just got taken by surprise by Brar, Sean?
I think what you got to understand is that even those class players in the form they're in, I mean, we often see them come in and in the first few deliveries, they get one away to the boundary. But it's still, it doesn't matter who you are. It sometimes takes a bit of getting used to in order to implement. And they've never seen Brar bowl before. They rock up and it's a tall guy. He gets a bit of turn. It purchases, beats the outside edge of Maxwell. It was a quality delivery. So, you know, I mean, all those things. I mean, the thing is that sometimes we take for granted when they walk in and do the job and whack the ball away and get over the line. And you go, oh, what a brilliant knock. And we don't maybe give them credit for the pressure they've had to come in and they've had to deal with in order to get it away. But today it just seemed like, you know, you sit there in the dugout as coaches, as players, you sit there going, oh, gosh, come on, you've got to get going, try and find the boundary. Oh, it doesn't hit a boundary. We need a boundary in this over. No boundary comes. And your mental sort of state starts to get to the stage where we need to get a go on. So as you walk to the crease, you're not in a relaxed state of mind where you can start to play. You're thinking, we're behind, I need to go. And that affects you, just that little decision-making. And then De Villiers walks in, for example, and his first 5 deliveries, he missed times. He doesn't get them away. You know, if he whacks one to the boundary, then maybe he can do the job on that day. But he just didn't get going at all, and then holds out. So, yeah, I think sometimes they do leave too much for them, and they just expect, because they've done it before a couple of times, they just expect them to do it again.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part of reputation. It follows you wherever you go, and the force of expectation, the weight of expectation, and we've seen it sometimes. It's the weight of the purse, but that's a different matter altogether. We haven't seen that effect as much. Where do these two teams go from here? It'll be an interesting road. We've already said that for Punjab, it's going to be 3 very, very tough games coming up. But if they play the way they've played today, maybe they'll say it doesn't matter if we're playing 1, 2, 3, and 4. If we're playing the bottom teams, we can handle ourselves. After 7 games, we're going upwards. Next are Delhi in a couple of days' time. And I think in that context of the way the game has gone tonight, Pommy, we'll see the schedule in a very different light.
Yeah, look, even as we look at the schedule, and I'll say again that, you know, when we started here, our thoughts were as they were because of what's gone on. You see that win, lost. That's why we think, you know, oh, they're struggling and they need to find runs from someone. They need to get a combination together when it comes to bowling. And it will still be a question of, yes, they'll be more confident, but the question will still be, can they reproduce what they've done there today? Can they do it again? And if they can, of course, then there are some what we might call upsets, but there's some good games and good results then in store for them. So yeah, everyone's wary of the next team, and there's absolutely no reason when things like this happen today for other sides to take any side lightly.
Gautam, yeah. What I think is they've got a better side. I think it's definitely a better side. You get Mayank back into the mix, and it starts to look, I mean, even that contribution by Harpreet Brar at the back end there I mean, we haven't seen much of that coming at the bottom of the order in the middle overs. But can we just put up their schedule again? Can we just get it up there one more time just to have a look at something? I thought they said that no teams were having home fixtures. How come they got 6 at the back end?
Well done, Sean.
They're going home.
Yeah, they're going home. So 5 games at the back end. Sure.
That's a good spot, Sean. All they have to do is this reverse fixture comes against Bangalore again in a few days' time here in Ahmedabad. Then they fly to familiar territory. Yeah, this is where the anomalies of no home advantage takes a little twist, because if you happen to be from there, if you happen to be someone who's played a lot of your cricket there, then oh boy, Punjab playing in Bangalore, that's going to be fun and games. That's going to be home fixtures, folks. It's not a joke anymore. It really is. So we'll see how they go at home as and when that comes up. But Sean, let's see if we can spot a pattern for the other Bangalore side, the A side, the ones who are called the Royal Challenge.
Well, which is the A side? Which is the A side?
Oh dear, yes. The original side, shall we say, the ones who play for the franchise by the same name. Before they head to Kolkata, they will be playing 2 more games, one against the city that they're going to head to, and of course the other one that we mentioned here, Sean, against Punjab. So Hyderabad, Delhi, Rajasthan, 3 games that maybe they'd fancy in Kolkata. But going by tonight, you can't fancy anyone, can you?
Yeah, I think that, they'll be disappointed. I think the big problem will be those 2 games, April 25th and April 30th. Lose by 69 and lose by 34. Unfortunately for them, it's been a little bit of an all fall down. They got over the one tight game that they had against Delhi, and they managed to win that by 1 run. But the rest of them have been mainly pretty comfortable. But I think the concern will be all fall down at any occasion, because as the tournament goes on, I can remember we always used to try and stress the point that no matter what the situation, no matter where you find yourself, we still got to try and produce the best game we can possibly be, because eventually the tournament comes down to knockout. And if you don't have your goods on one day, you've got to find a way of scrapping, or even if you're at 80%, you've got to find a way of competing. And you can't have a game where you're chasing 170 and basically the game's over after 8 or 10 overs of your innings. So I think that will be their only concern. They're a better team than, and I'm sure they'll bounce back. It won't be bothering them too much. But they'll also start to realize, you know what, you can't take anything for granted here.
Well, I can tell you, when we looked at the unknown quantity who's been the star for today, Harpreet Brar, it's not a coincidence. We see what happens on the field of play, but what happens behind the scenes? Why did they put him in? KL Rahul said after the game, we've been preparing him for a while, and obviously they found the right opportunity to bring him in that all-rounder slot, possibly against Enriquez, and then you had the quicker pace of Meredith coming in for Arshdeep Singh, if you really look at the balance of the side. But from Rahul's point himself, Pommy, he was inevitably asked about his form against Bangalore, and he said it seems to be a situation where we come up against them when we have to win, and I need to lead by example, and I do.
Yeah, look, I understand what he means by we come up against them when we have to win, but I would argue that you have to win every one. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah, well, I suppose the results are what he's talking about in terms of having gone down in many games.
You could have qualified and be playing them right at the end in an inconsequential game. Here they were on a losing streak, and really, had they lost this one again, we're starting to look mathematics.
Yeah, and this is a kind of seasonal occurrence, isn't it? Win one, win a couple, lose quite a few, and then find yourself in a position where you're having to win just about every game if you're going to make it into the playoffs. I struggle to accept that as a reason why he does well against them. I just think that he's a good player, and they when he comes up against them, they just don't have any answers for him. And he played particularly well. I mean, there was a period there where he did go a little bit quiet, and then I think it was a case also of deciding I can't really go. There are a couple of wickets that have gone down, and I need to bat a lot longer now because now Gale is out. Now another wicket's fallen. Now there's not too much left at the back end, and he controlled it beautifully. As he's done, as we can see from those numbers, he's done it fantastic. At 132 was absolutely out of this world. I remember it at Dubai. Just magnificent. He just enjoys the opposition, and they meet again. So he'd be looking forward to that.
Yeah, they meet again in a few days' time, but it's no question Chris Gayle will definitely be there, and he'll be there raring to go. A team man is what KL Rahul called him, Sean, because we've been wondering maybe he should be opening the batting. We were a little surprised with Prabh Simran going in, but he said, look, 3 is the position we've given him, and Chris Gayle will do anything for the sake of the team, because we know that his preference would be to open.
Yeah, I just think the situation allowed for them to put him up the top. I mean, I have no issue with Mayank going back to the top of the order once he's fit already. I mean, he's done a great job, and their partnerships up front have set up many games that Punjab have done well in. But I just thought it was the occasion for him to be sent up there, and that he could back himself and really make an impact. But it worked out in the end, because when he did get in there, he still used those 2 or 3 overs that he did have of the power play to wonderful advantage, and really created some impetus in the innings. And that was the sort of the launching pad that got them into a strong position heading into the back end.
Yeah,
there are a few sides, aren't there, where the arrangement of an order, of a batting order, the question marks, you're sitting there scratching your head wondering, well, why wouldn't you go that route, and why would you go this way? When it works, when the team's working well and winning, it's easily justifiable. But I think the cracks and the issue of your decision and whether it's okay or not is when you can actually, in the cold situation of defeat, right, see what it is you can do in order to actually bolster and ensure that the team's working better. And that's it. So what would you have done differently on the day? And you can't turn up on the day and say, yeah, we lost by so much, but I'd still have our best batsmen sitting outside the field instead of on the field. I don't think you'd say that. So perhaps there are areas that would need to be revisited. I'm sure they're talking about them anyway, but there are areas where it needs to perhaps be clear that after a certain number of overs, so-and-so has to be batting. No matter what we've said about the order, this is the guy who comes in next, and such and such.
What's your take on POORAN?
Mine,
out now?
I don't think, because they won, I don't think he'll be out. I think they'll give him another chance.
What do you think, Milan?
If you're Milan, you're spewing. I know you are. You would be. I mean, I know. And the thing,
7 games?
Yeah, 7 games. Just a 19 and a 9. I think that's all he's got. And then notes everywhere else. So, yeah.
That's a brave
one. There's also, I think you also, as happens, you also are almost haunted by performances of a season prior. If it's a guy who's been in your camp and you know how destructive you can be, and you go, he's gonna turn the corner, he's gonna turn this one, he's due, we know he can, he's due. And sometimes it happens.
Well, I mean, history would tell us too that they probably won't change it. I mean, we looked last year, who was it? David Miller? David Miller was the one, wasn't he? He sat on the side, and Maxwell had free reign for the whole season and didn't get a gig. So
no, that wasn't.
That probably.
That was a couple of seasons ago, I think. Yeah.
No, wasn't it last year?
No.
Didn't Miller get traded this year?
That would have been earlier. That would have been a previous season. But I see
Miller got no deliveries and run out last year for Rajasthan, and he was filling for Butler, I think it was, who was still in England.
Oh, okay.
And then sat out the rest of the season. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So who was the batsman that sat and watched last year for Maxwell?
Yeah, there would have been an equivalent of David Malan who would have seen that happen. We'll probably try and get to it, but brave call from both our experts who feel that Nicholas Pooran will get another chance. I can tell you, he can pull off anything on the field this season. It's been Ravi Bishnoi who's been doing it, and I can tell you he had a catch today that he should have got, but he just sort of sat on his haunches, was in 2 minds. Probably his batting affecting his fielding, and that is the batting. Those are the numbers we're talking about. We wish him well. We wish him well, because if he comes good, he can be really, really good. And that's what Punjab will be hoping for. But anyway, it's 2 points for them. And one thing, when we have a look at the points table, keep an eye on Bangalore's net run rate. Normally, if you've got 5 wins, 2 losses, 10 points in the bag, your net run rate pretty much has to be in the positive. But when you've lost one by 69, another by 34, that should have been 69, it's going to hurt. So if it gets to a situation where that, they're 10, they fall by a couple more, they're in that 4th, 5th spot, it'll come back to haunt them, the net run rate.
Oof, yeah. Look, you're looking into a crystal ball there, but I see your point. I don't think it should be a minus. Geez, and it's a big minus as well. I mean, 0.17, that's a lot. For a team that's winning, that's a lot. Yeah, hopefully for them, they don't have to worry about net run rate. It's just this, polar opposite in terms of performances that's a problem. If it remains so and they win, at least 3 more games, no problem, But if it doesn't, we'll be sitting here and we'll be going, oh dear, not again, not this wonderfully star-studded side. And here we are again. We thought it was their year, and oopsie. Yeah, hopefully not.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's about keeping an eye on those points, I guess. They'll probably turn around and say, look, if we have enough points, net run rate doesn't matter, and it shouldn't if they're playing the way they played the previous games. But the next fixture that's coming up is going to be the marquee fixture. Yes, indeed. Both these teams have a positive net run rate. It's Mumbai against Chennai. They're playing in a neutral venue of Delhi. Not the first time they will have met there. They played a qualifier in 2013. But not that they'll think back that far. We're thinking here and now. Chennai are the champion side for this season. Mumbai are looking to start climbing up that ladder. So either way, a negative result for one of these two teams could just be something that defines where the tournament goes, Pami.
So Chennai are going well. I think they look fantastic. All of a sudden, they're back, and how guys go, Dad's Army, the older guys, and all of this. I've enjoyed Ruturaj Gaikwad up at the top of the order. Faf du Plessis is playing magnificently. He's just timing absolutely everything. He's magnificent in the field as well. The order is just working quite nicely. Raina back is important for them as well. I like the addition of Moeen Ali. I like watching him because it's like he's having, an exhibition game. He's deadly serious, of course, but the way that he plays, the way that he bats particularly, and he's been given licenses, just goes out there, absolutely smashes it. And then as you go further down the order, they kind of can sort things out and bat some way down. So yeah, they're looking good. They won here, obviously, in the first game they played here. And Mumbai won here, and they enjoy this surface, a lot better than they felt about the surface in Chennai. That's a good record. That's a nice start, as nice a start as you'd like. Not so much for Mumbai, though.
Yep, that's what. But that last win they'll probably tell themselves, is that the game changer? Is that the momentum changer for us? Which is why I said if Chennai were to lose, it will mean that momentum is halted. If Mumbai were to lose, it means Chennai, the juggernaut, goes on, and Mumbai have to re-find that momentum. But Sean, one thing that Pami just mentioned, Moeen Ali, we've talked about many other teams. What are they doing at number 3? Why a Patidar? Should not somebody else not be in there? I think Chennai are one of those teams who have got an unorthodox number 3, not the regular, but they've got it for the right reasons.
Yeah, they have, and he plays according to the role that's required, doesn't he? He's one of those guys who just likes to walk in there, see ball, and hit it, and get on with the game. I've been impressed by the decision. I've been impressed by the way he's played. And I've been impressed by Chennai, to be honest. I think they've got much better balance than they did last year. I think Pommy mentioned a lot of the names that have come back that have just made it look like a strong unit. Mumbai starting to come into their own again, starting to feel that maybe the middle order can find some form in Delhi. And you guys keep talking about points on the board and momentum. Forget that. This is national pride that's on the line. These two guys, having been in that camp, do not want to lose to each other. So be under no illusions. It's a bigger game. than just 2 points on the line, even though it's at this stage of the season.
Summed
They
it up
always love to
beautifully.
make a statement. They always like to make a statement against each other. And I think it'll be a very, very important game tomorrow.
Well, for a big game like this, let's look at the lineups. Let's look at Chennai first. We've talked about them first, and they've generally managed in history, even this season, to stick to the guys who have been doing the job for them. The only sort of rotation, in a sense, has happened in the bowling department. Tahir was in, Lungi Ngidi was in, Bravo was in, but I think they seem to have settled on Ngidi for the moment, Pami.
Yeah, what Ngidi does is take wickets, and that's priceless. It doesn't matter which format you're playing. If you've got a guy who can get you wickets, and what's been good this season is it's not just up at the front, because he hasn't necessarily taken the new ball all the time. He's been asked to come in after a few overs, and has still managed to be effective. I like their bowling group. Dhoni knows exactly how to use them. He brought in Tahir the other day for the first time in a long time, and Tahir had an impact. The fact that Jadeja's bowling well, I think, sorts a whole lot out in that side. Never mind the fact that he's batting quite nicely as well. But he's in the purple patch, is playing nicely, and the team is beautifully unlocked. So when they do make changes, when they want to, whether it's Bravo they want to bring in, or Tahir they want to bring in. I mean, they've still got Sam Curran in there, who's a really good player, can float up and down that order with the bat in hand, and bowls quite nicely with those left arm swingers. So yeah, it's a good looking side. It's a really good looking side. I said a week ago, re-establish their championship status. I think they're going a long way to doing that. I know it's early days, but with the way they look, they're going a long way to doing that.
Certainly have, and throw in the fielding of Jadeja and Faf du Plessis and even Raina at 80%, and they've got quite a unit out there. Let's move on to Mumbai. Two teams, as Sean Pollock said, don't like to lose to each other. So what about Mumbai? Again, I think the two teams will probably by the end of the season have made the least amount of changes. So Mumbai again, settled side. They had a box to tick in the last game, Sean. They ticked it beautifully in Quinton de Kock.
Yeah, they did. I think that was an important, very important knock for them at the top of the order, just to get him with runs under the belt. And only changed Jayant Yadav. Do they decide to go that option again? I think it is an easy ground to pop spinners straight down the ground. So it might be an option that they go to one of the international bowlers, in his place. Because what did they do? They just play the three last game, didn't they? It was Quinton.
No, they brought back.
They brought back.
Yeah, Colton
in place of Ishan Kishan. Yeah, yes. So I don't think they'd go back to Ishan. I think they'll keep it pretty similar. I think they do want the different options, particularly on that ground, because you're never sure how your spinners are going to go. But you've got your bankers. You've almost got 8 overs guaranteed, or 12 overs guaranteed. In Chahar, you've got Bumrah, and Trent Bolt normally gives you a good 4 as well. So I think they can always mix and match with the others. But it's looking better from their perspective.
Very briefly, Pommy, they've got Krunal Pandya, they've got Rahul Chahar, champion bowler. Do you think the one area would be Jayant Yadav? However well he might have performed, could they be looking for another type of bowler maybe?
I think if the ball is to turn at all, they wanted to go the other way. So both those guys that you've mentioned go the one direction with the leg spin and the left arm spin. So Jayant gives them that. And I think Rohit trusts Jayant. He's an experienced bowler. Yes, he got popped away the other day, but that can happen. But he's a pretty smart bowler, and he'll keep him because he's an offie rather than spinning it the same direction as the leg and left arm.
Well, that's what we feel here in the studio. We feel both Chennai and Mumbai won't really need to make any, unless there's an eventuality, maybe an injury, maybe a niggle that forces them to do so. But that's what we're looking forward to. Super Saturday with a marquee clash between Mumbai and Chennai. What we also do at this time of the show is reveal the answer to our Joy Factor question of the day. And let's see what we have for you, or had for you rather. In which particular list of international cricket records is a current international coach at the first position, current national selector, and fourth and Muttiah Muralidharan and Sean Pollock just outside the top 10. Let's first bring you the answer, and the answer is best ODI economy over rate in a spell of 10 overs or more. Best ODI economy over rate in a spell of 10 overs or more.
You'll have to explain that to the viewers. So back in the day, I think, what was it, 60 over games?
60 overs, yeah. 60.
And 55. And 55.
And 55, yeah.
Yeah, correct.
What is that?
What was yours? Do you remember?
I think it was 10 overs for like 9 runs. Could have been. I think it was could have been Pakistan, which is a bit of a surprise.
I think that's a I don't remember, really. I think I remember.
But I remember the other guys. I remember the other guys.
Okay, go on then.
Phil Simmons.
Yeah.
Phil Simmons. One for 6, I think it was, or 6 for 1 in Sydney. Opened the bowling.
Yeah.
So he's the coach of the West Indies. And then I was one of the victims of Joshi. When he Joshi. I think he got 5 for split as well. I was one of those victims.
5 for 6, yeah, that was sensational.
Yeah. In Kenya. So I remember those, yeah.
There you have it. Sunil Joshi, Sean Pollock, Muttiah Muralidharan, Phil Simmons. That's a lot of names in there, and it's a toughie. You'd have to say this was a tough one. And who was the one who spotted this toughie easiest of all, fastest of all? Tanmoy Rohitman, Tanmoy CV01. I like it. It's a different Tanmoy, not Chakraborty. We're getting newer and newer answerers, newer and newer quizzers coming into the fold, and that's what we like. And that's exactly why we've got so many of you coming in to try and answer the tougher ones. But chances are, folks like Tanmay who like to answer these difficult questions are like this cricket community who just demands more of the world of cricket. And we've come to the rescue. What we've done is we've started something called Cricbuzz Plus, where you subscribe and you get rewarded with a host of cricketing extras, from interviews, analysis, articles, and of course, we're looking forward to a brand new season of Cricbuzz in conversation with Harsha Bhogle. That should be awesome fun. So look forward to that. Get on Cricbuzz Plus. We're looking forward to much more cricket coming over the weekend. Just about time on the show to say a huge thank you to Pamiyam Bangwa and to Sean Pollock. We'll see all of you on the weekend. Marquee clash on Saturday. It's good night from Cricbuzz Live, brought to you in association with our fantasy partner, My 11 Circle.